What's something that's painfully obvious but people will never admit? Some of the bad parenting I see is just so painfully obviously not how it should be done. Like the woman I babysit for who regularly screams at her kids at the top of her lungs, then wonders why her kids are pure chaos. Lady, they're not chaotic with me ... at all. Maybe set up and stick to some expectations, rules and boundaries, or actively teaching social societal rules to your children instead of having a daily tantrum yourself. Worth noting that not all parenting issues are easy to notice or fix just talking about the more obvious flaws like in my personal example. Mockery does not help. It never does. Nobody's been mocked for their political religious beliefs and then thought, shit, they are right, I am a moron, I'm now going to listen to the people who just called me names. It doesn't work that way. It never has and never will. If anything, you're helping them double down on their shitty beliefs. If you want to mock someone because you think it's funny, by all means. But don't pretend you're fighting some good fight. You're clowning on your opponents, that's all. Which is fun. I get it. There's a certain amount of brain chemistry that defines happiness in the individual. You can be brilliant, successful, and have it all but still be and feel unhappy. And the opposite is true. People's consciousness can be born into an unhappy bodily shell, and their individual externalities can influence their unhappiness the rest of their lives. Early childhood abuse they'll never remember. Abuse they do remember. And then people say just be happy. It doesn't work that easily. The world does not owe you a living. You've got to be proactive, diligent and hard-working if you want to get ahead in life. You've also got to recognize your best talents and try to use those while being realistic. E.g., quite a few people can sing. 1 in 100 people has an absolute phenomenal voice. Just because you have phenomenal voice doesn't make it automatic you will earn a living from it. If you think about it, for every 1 million people in your country, 1,000 have phenomenal voices. I think it's painfully obvious that, at the very least, there is a chance there is no God. I'm not saying there is or there isn't, but I have friends and family who genuinely believe that as much as there is a physical world, there is a spiritual world, and they base their entire lives around this. Again, not saying there definitely isn't a God. I personally believe there is some kind of God. But it's super obvious that there is an extremely good chance that there is no such thing. Nobody actually reads the terms and conditions. We all just scroll through and hit accept without second thought. It's painfully obvious. Companies know they can bury any terms they want in there, and the general population will remain blissfully unaware. Yet, everyone pretends they're diligent about understanding every agreement they make online. Some folks won't like you, and there's nothing you can do to change that. It's no use trying to push a friendship or relationship with someone who doesn't feel the same way about you. But very few people actually realize this, and they don't want to hear it either. They believe they'll be the exception who can work some magic trick. They won't. Happiness isn't something that is measured on standards of others, but of your own making and preferences. Never let someone tell you that you can't be happy if you don't do X or Y. If you get happiness from doing Z, then keep doing Z. Unless doing Z impedes on someone else's happiness and well-being, that's just being considerate. A lot of things are out of your control. Your health may spontaneously go to shit. You might meet a covert narcissist who waits until after you're married, or have a baby to reveal who they really are. You might find out after years your boss has been embezzling your pension. Try to be compassionate for people, especially yourself. Flossing is not a daily habit for as many people as dentists would hope. Despite nodding along during dental checkups, many skip this crucial step in their oral hygiene routine more often, and they'd admit. The discrepancy between what we say and what we do when it comes to flossing is a common, but rarely acknowledged truth. The customer is not always right, but businesses will never say it outright. Anyone who's worked in customer service knows that customers can be unreasonable or downright wrong. However, the mantra persists because it's foundational to good customer relations, even when it means swallowing pride and biting one's tongue. We're all a little biased, no matter how open-minded we claim to be. It's a natural human condition to have prejudices based on our upbringing, experiences, and the society we live in. While many strive to overcome these biases, admitting we have them in the first place is something most people are reluctant to do. Social media is a highlight reel, not real life. We all know it's curated to show the best moments, yet it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing our everyday existence to someone else's best moments. Admitting that this affects our self-esteem and perception of reality is something many are reluctant to do. Deep down, we all care what others think about us. Even the most self-assured individuals have moments of vulnerability, and the opinions of others impact them more than they'd like to admit. This concern for social standing and acceptance is hardwired into us, but acknowledging it feels like showing weakness. Deep down, we all care what others think about us. Even the most self-assured individuals have moments of vulnerability, and the opinions of others impact them more than they'd like to admit. This concern for social standing and acceptance is hardwired into us, but acknowledging it feels like showing weakness. Nearly everyone is a NIMBY. Maybe actually everyone. I think we have a chronic housing shortage. Council houses are an important thing, and if I was in power, I'd build hundreds of thousands of them. I 100 do not want said social housing, or more housing in general, to be near my house. Why the hell would I? A relationship has two main responsibilities: money and keeping the house kids. You have to decide who is doing what, because when one isn't doing their job, the relationship isn't healthy and it usually ends. Now, in end-stage capitalism where two incomes are needed, fewer relationships are healthy anymore. All the addictive things we consume and pretend aren't. Sugar, caffeine, screens, weed. Hell, even misery negativity seems addictive. How weird and dystopian it is for all these 3D human beings walking around in a 3D world but completely consumed by dare to buy for screen on their hand. It's so wild and weird. Karma, in the sense of people who are mean to me will have bad things happen to them eventually, isn't real. Plenty of people in great positions in life are shitty growing up. Also, just because you suffered in some way in the past, it doesn't mean you are owed success in the future. Most of us are terrible at estimating how long tasks will take. Whether it's a home renovation project or finishing a work assignment, we're often overly optimistic about timelines. It's known as the planning fallacy, and yet, time and again, we'll swear this time we've got it right. Religion is simply a way to maintain order in a society. If you are put to death for a crime, you'll either cease to be, or move on to paradise, raising the stakes either with eternal torment, or an absence of God's love is the carrot or stick needed to keep honest people honest. That life is an endless loop, to pay the powers that run the place and keep us enslaved even though everyone tells us we are free. You are free. You are free, we are not. Miss a few months' payments and look for freedom then. It is an endless currency slave cycle. We all pretend to know more than we actually do at times. Whether it's nodding along to a conversation at a party or using technical jargon at work to sound knowledgeable, the fear of appearing ignorant often outweighs the humility of admitting we don't know something. Our health and the environment and killing sentient animals in the way we do, at the scale that we do, is something we're going to look back at in 100 years and be like, what the fuck was wrong with us? Everyone has Googled themselves at some point. Curiosity about how we appear in the digital world gets the better of us all. But few will admit to doing this vanity search. It's a small, harmless act of narcissism that's universally shared yet rarely confessed. Everyone has Googled themselves at some point. Curiosity about how we appear in the digital world gets the better of us all. But few will admit to doing this vanity search. It's a small, harmless act of narcissism that's universally shared yet rarely confessed. Nobody is ugly is a lie, and commenting on the posts of people with facial deformities calling them beautiful doesn't make you a good person. You really just don't have to comment on people's looks. But it's okay to think that someone is ugly. The fact that the earth is round, some people just can't listen to all the evidence and will just come up with excuses and lies even though it's really obvious that those excuses wouldn't work, but they never listen to any real science. Everyone makes decisions based on emotions over logic more often, and they'd like to admit humans are emotional creatures, and our feelings often guide our choices. Even in situations where we think we're being entirely rational. Colleges to recruit children and scam okay. Harsh word them into signing up to start their life off with a mountain of debt, all under the false pretense that a degree is super important in life. Many, probably most, people believe things that they would never admit to out of fear of ostracization. Even if everyone else believes the same thing, everyone else will condemn it out of their own fear of ostracization. That losing weight and keeping it off is incredibly difficult, and very few ever succeed in the long term. But people will always talk about how they figured it out and hacked their metabolism, and how you can do the same. Differences in human intelligence are massive. People at the highest and lowest ends of the scale are technically the same species, but might as well not be with what they can do and how they can think. Addiction isn't about willpower. It's a disease, just like any other, except there's no cure. Even if you manage sobriety, it's still there, twisting every part of your existence in one way or another.